Welcome, everybody. I'm going to talk about the new features in Fictionary. Feel free to ask questions at any time, either by coming off mute or in the chat. This is our first kind of dip into the AI pool, so we're going to talk about that a little bit when we get to that part. I know there's been some questions in the community, and so I want to address those as we go. I'm going to share my screen. Talk about the story editing journey. Everybody should be seeing my story editing journey. Lucy nod or thumbs up, even better. All right. So the reason we chose to do the story editing journey was thank you to all of the community. We had lots of feedback from people that they'd like a process to follow and that they found a little bit hard just to come in and use Fictionary right out of just cold if you don't know anything about it, if you haven't been to the Fictionary live classes or the weekly basics events on how to use Fictionary. And so it's not the full everything you can do in Fictionary. It is a way through that if it works for you, great. You can do any order you like, of course, because you are the artist. You know, I feel very strongly about that. So we started with the story blurb. Now, you all know I love the story blurb, and I don't see how anyone can edit a novel without a skeleton blurb, ever. I just don't get it. So before we do that, we'll just pop up basically the layout. I'll give you that first. So here, there is a video, which I won't play, but this is the overview video of how to use the journey. So you can pop back here at any time. This Learn button is a video that shows you how to make the most of this step. So they're all short, 1 to 4 minutes, depending on where we are in the journey. We also have a pop-up here. This one's obviously very clear. Just click here to add your skeleton blurb, which we will do in a second. And so you can follow your way through. And we've designed it that we're at the high level. So you look at your structure first when you come into the app. And the goal in this column is not to do too much yet. You want to have a look at the structure of your story, the structures of your chapters and scenes, and get a feel for the overall how you've built your story. Then we come down here to the point of view, and that's the next step in where Fictionary takes a first stab at setting this for you. You can, of course, update it. You can do it now, or you can just continue on through. When you get to tension and conflict, this is the next place where this is where you really start the work on your book. And we chose tension and conflict at this stage because every scene in your story needs tension and conflict. And so we felt it was the fastest way to improve at a scene level. And then scene structure. So looking at the architecture of each scene throughout your novel. So there's more work here. And then we moved on to the flow. And here we look at timelines and settings, the story goal and pacing. And then at the end, we go back to a story review. And the purpose of this is as you're editing and you're doing your phases, you always want to take a look at your story arc, see how you're doing. And the story arc updates every single time you make a change to your manuscript. So if you move scenes around, cut scenes, shorten scenes, lengthen scenes, all of these things, the story arc will redraw. So at the end of the process, you want to make sure that you're happy with the story arc. So we'll start with the story blurb. So we're already at. So all you do here is you click to add your story blurb. We've got our area here. You can see the new thing here is, oh, look, Jazz Cooper is actually my, yeah, I know. My developer snuck this drop down in just on his own. Lovely drawn. Thank you very much. So that you no longer have to go to the cast of characters to add your protagonist to your blurb. You get your story goal, and I don't know why she could be short here. That was just me. She could be maybe killed. I think I was goofing around with somebody. You click the question mark, click out of here, and then you see down here, your blurb stays here with you. After you've got your story, your skeleton blurb, you don't need to write your story blurb yet. That comes at the end. You go to story structure. Now here is where we get into our first dip into AI. So I'm actually going to switch. This is my example manuscript. So I'm going to go over to an empty manuscript. Lucy, are you seeing an evaluate page now with no scenes? Okay. So on the plot tab, we have the name my scenes feature that everybody has in their app. Just click that. Here, what's going to happen, if you had your scene names filled out, it's going to overwrite them. So you don't want to do this if you want to keep your original scene names. What I'm recommending is you just want to see this, import your manuscript on another level on your bookshelf, and then you can see what your manuscript looks like. We are using AI here, so if you're not comfortable with that, this is another place you can cancel. So I'll click continue here. And while Fictionary is going through and naming the scenes for me, what we're doing with AI, so I have a very specific philosophy for AI, and it's that I want the writer to be the artist, and I want AI there to help them. And so we've chosen that for your text here, your actual manuscript, we don't touch it. So the software doesn't alter it. It is yours to alter. And what we're trying to do is use AI to update the story elements and create new insights so that you can use that information so you, the artist, edit your own story. This does a couple of things. One, if you're trying to publish or get an agent or a publisher and they say you can't have used AI to generate your content, you can say you have not used AI to generate it. We're using AI. If you think about a mathematician using a calculator, that's what it is. That mathematician still needs to understand all the theory, create all their processes and their formulas, and they use the calculator to help them. That's how we view AI. So I'm going to view the story outline. So here, if the scene is unfocused, too short, or over 5,000 words, it won't name it. Then it goes through and names it. And in the story outline, the goal is here. So if a dot, if the dot is blue and the line is blue, this means it's a story arc scene and the beginning of a chapter. If it's green, it means that scene is the beginning of a chapter. And if it's orange, it means that it's a story arc scene, but it's not the first scene in a chapter. That's okay if it ends up being the last scene, but somewhere stuck in the middle could be a problem. And you'll see the video for this explains all the things you need to know about how to use this and how to read this insight. And then also behind here, we've got a help tip. I don't know if you know it, so I'll just do this quickly. With the help tips, you can have, there's need more. So there's a ton of information there. And anywhere you see a question mark, you've got a tip. So I'm going to stop there for a second. I just want to see, while I go back to my example manuscript, are there any questions?
Yes, so we've got from Kestrel, curious, why did it skip the first scene?
So if you remember in the example manuscript, in that first scene, the edit on it, it's a really short scene. It's got no setting. So it's hard. I think it's hard for AI to figure out what it's actually about. It doesn't get it. And so clearly that scene needs revision if it can't pull out something about the scene that it thinks it's about. For scenes over 5,000 words, we blocked it to say this is short story territory. You really should look at this scene, that it's getting very long for a scene in a novel. Part of the reason for having a button for naming scenes is you, the artist, you get to choose if you want to use AI to do that or if you want to do it yourself. And so we'll follow the same philosophy as we go forward, that you get to choose. And so you know if you're using AI to do something or not. And then if you're not comfortable with AI, that's okay. You don't have to use it. Absolutely. You can still do it your own and name them yourselves, and follow that going forward.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, initially I ran it on the text we're working on certification, and I'm happy really. I mean, I think it's that particular text. It's named the scenes very well. I've added a couple where, as you say, it didn't actually name them. Yep. But it's more to do with the plot points. Once I started shuffling the plot points around, I realized I hadn't kept a note of where the AI had put it in the first place. So that's why I was thinking I'd like to rerun it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So the AI is not setting plot points. That's the
Oh,
story arc, is
okay,
setting plot points. So that's our proprietary software that we've designed and written to draw that for you.
right. So it's the two are independent.
Yep, completely
Okay,
independent.
fine. Thank you. That's
Yep,
fine.
yep.
That's
So
fine.
literally the only place is when you name scenes. That's when we're popping into the Google
Okay,
AI.
that's
Yep.
yeah. Thank you. That's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what is the minimum word count for it to name my scenes? Um, so it's hard to say because you could have a very tight scene that's super short and it's easy to name, where um, the first scene in evolution is short and it lacks a whole bunch of detail, so it's hard to name. Um, so there is no definite answer. So Nick, that's a good question. No, Fictionary, we haven't used any AI up until this point. It's all, some of you may know I have a computer mathematics degree. And so we designed and built everything Fictionary is doing without using AI. So we're analyzing the manuscript based on mathematical formulas. And so the naming the scenes is the only artificial intelligence in there. Alrighty, so then we move on. Now that we've done story structure, the goal at this point is just to view your story arc and see what Fictionary did for you, right? So you're looking for anomalies, even if it's set up really, really close, you still want to take a look. And this one is the historic, and you want to just kind of verify, is this what you think is the middle plot point, for example? And then you can reset it if you don't agree with it. The goal isn't here to work too much on the overall structure yet. It's just to see your manuscript. And then we look at chapter structure. And again, there's a video here that explains in detail how to use this. And then the first thing we want you to look at is word count per scene. And the largest scene here is 1600. So it's not really too bad. You can scroll across and find it. There it is. I look at that and think, yep. And it's just a thing of being in class. It probably doesn't warrant that word count compared to my other scenes. But in your novel, what you're looking for are things that really stand out as being too long compared to others. You can also go, this is slowing down the pacing. When you go down, it's speeding up the pacing. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. And again, at this point, you're just getting a sense for the structure of your story. And then you view your scenes per chapter. And this, in conjunction with scene naming, will really help you theme your chapters. You can see in this novel, the longest is 7. And there's some, I won't go through it now, but there's some really quick ways of just splitting the scenes. You get a plot point scene at the beginning or the end of a chapter to fix that type of structural issue right away. And again, you're looking for things that stand out. And if you use this with the scene naming, you can see themes for your chapter and have you grouped your chapters well. Then here's where we get on to our first bit of work. We have a look at the point of view. In this case, it's really boring because Jazz is the point of view character, so there's really nothing to show here. If there's a bunch of point of view characters and you don't agree with it and you want to change it at this point, actually I meant to go to the evaluate page, you can go here. Super easy to change a point of view character. So let's just pretend it was Tom. You just flip it, and now if we hit save, we go back here and we see now we have Tom as a point of view character. So we go back to the journey, which you also see up here. Now here is where we start really working on it. So first, this shows you the story map. And for anyone not familiar with it, this is all of the story elements. And here, what we've added is a button here that shows you how to group tension and conflict, scene structure, timelines and settings, story goal and pacing. And these are the things we've put into our story arc. This is the first one that we will update automatically with Gen AI. So we're working on it now. And we're just going to go through the list basically. And so here, you can see at any time how you're doing on your tension and your conflict in your scene. So here, you know who the point of view character is. So you need to know their goal and what if it fails. And that, if there's consequences of if it fails, is the tension in the scene. If there's no consequences, there's no tension in the scene. The conflict is anything you've put in there that makes it difficult for the point of view character to reach this goal. And this is why we've put point of view, goal, and what if the goal fails together with tension and conflict, so you can objectively decide if there's tension or conflict in your scene. So then you would go to the evaluate page, and this is where on the character tab, you want to do your point of view character, your point of view goal, what if the goal fails? And then you can go to the plot tab and you can objectively say, do you have conflict and tension in every scene? And if not at this point, just make a note you don't have it and keep going through and get a feel for how you're doing in your novel overall for tension and conflict. Scene structure, same thing. We have the visualize page, and here we've got the scene name, and then the entry hook, point of view goal, scene middle, scene climax, exit hook. And you can see the full structure of your scene. You can see the scene name is the husband's funeral. The entry hook is whose funeral. The goal is to get through the funeral. The scene middle, there's an unknown man that stares at Jazz, and this is significant because he's a key player in the story. Scene climax is Jazz bolts, and why did Jazz bolt? So the overall structure is not bad. The scene lacks a ton of stuff, but structure is not one of them. So then again, you would go to the evaluate page and use those elements to look at the structure of your scenes. And once you start building your scenes in this way, it'll become natural to you. As soon as you do something over and over. And again, there's a learn button here, which we have a video that shows you how to use this if you forget. Then we move on to timelines and settings. And here, this is basically the scene name, the point of view, location, date, and all of the senses. And here you can see with evolution scene 1, the sights are abstract. There's no cells, no sounds, no tastes, and there's a little bit of touch. So this is really lacking in this scene, where scene 3 is much better, right? So now when I'm doing my revisions, I'm going to revise this scene for my settings, and this one is probably fine. And again, you go to the evaluate page when you're doing that. Story goal and pacing. So this is another little bit of a change. So the story goal tracking used to be the character arc, but what it really is your protagonist closer to or farther away from the story goal in every scene. Must be negative or positive, shouldn't be neutral like it has here. So this scene definitely needs work. When you put that together with the purpose and the action and sequel, what you see is that first, you know if the scene is moving the protagonist closer to or farther away. So that's good for the forward moving motion of the story. You know why you put this scene in there. If a scene doesn't have a purpose, it stops the flow. And so it has to come out or be edited, revised. And then action and sequel, you're looking at how many action and sequel scenes you have together, and things like, this is the inciting incident. Well, a sequel scene follows. So that's pretty good because you want to see how the protagonist is going to react to their whole life changing. So this is there to help give you a way to focus on the flow. And then finally, we come back to a review. And here, once you've gone through, you've filled a lot of these elements out already, but this gives you your skeleton synopsis. And then this over here is just a super draft to give you an idea of what you could write, but we need actually a proper synopsis in here. And here you see where the scene hits. This one's a problem. By this time in the revisions, this may have changed, and it would be back closer to where I need it. It tells you, the point of view character, what they need, what happens in the middle, in the climax, and then how does it impact the point of view character. And so this gives you a very high level view of your story arc, and you can read it in one. Is that your main plot line? So we'll go back to the journey, and then at this point you can break off and do whatever you want. There's a ton of stuff in Fictionary to help you edit, but this at least gives you a bit of a process. So I'm going to stop there. How do we look into scene to get it named? What needs to be modified? So this is where Jean, that's a great question. So the things where we're going through with point of view, tension and conflict, scene structure, all of these is going to give you a better shot at having that scene named and make it clearer, because you'll have, your scene will be structured in a proper way. The other way is to make sure your scenes are anchored, so the point of view goal, the point of view character, the setting and the timing are clear. And so what you're looking for is, when you look at the story elements, which ones are weak, and that's going to lead you to why it couldn't be named. Okay, any last questions? We have 1 minute to go before Lucy has to teach Fictionary Live. If you have a relatively rough first draft and plan on bulking out the story and restructuring it in the second draft, would you recommend uploading first draft or holding off till the second draft is ready? So Tara, I do the first draft, and then what I do is I export it and I import again on a new line item on my bookshelf. So then I have the original, and so that I can compare the two. And so I like to keep a running copy. And with Fictionary, you can archive as many manuscripts as you want. Okay, we have to cut this off today because Fictional Live is coming up now. And I know there's people on this call who need to be over there and teaching it too. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And as always, DM me if you have any questions.